The FDA has long-standing guidance and recommendations for manufacturers on how to best protect their medical devices from cybersecurity threats and vulnerabilities. And as recently as the fall of 2018, the FDA published a new draft guidance document that tasks medical device manufacturers with considering how to best address these cybersecurity issues in the development and design of medical devices. By having medical device manufacturers consider these issues earlier in the development phases, the hope is that the medical devices might better address these types of issues before the products ever get to market.
In addition to that, they actually released, in conjunction with another organization, a playbook of sorts to help educate the community about cybersecurity risk management and incident handling relative to medical devices as well. So they've been taking sort of a very holistic view of educating the community from a manufacturer, clinician, and end user perspective about how to manage these risks effectively. I think what they're trying to do is evolve the way that the FDA is handling cybersecurity, just as innovation in the medical device space has been picking up pretty rapidly.
The FDA's guidance goes on to talk about Tier 1 and Tier 2 products. Tier 2 being your standard set of controls. Tier 1 being your highest risk products. And a lot of factors are taken into account on that. What we're looking at is a Tier 1 device is one that can be accessed remotely, and so is most prone to a cybersecurity vulnerability. A Tier 2 device may have cybersecurity vulnerabilities as well. Sometimes you have older devices that have been implanted and they really are not programmable, or if they are programmable, they have to literally be removed from the patient and hardwired to the computer that you're using to modify these. Those are probably in the lowest risk category because it's very, very hard to hack a device that doesn't have outside communications. So that's the way they're looking at it in tiers, and they're covering all of the approval way pathways when they talk about this. So they're covering your 510K, they're covering your PMA, they're covering the new de novo process, and they're covering something called the PDP. So basically at the beginning of these processes, before you're filing, you want to make sure that your cybersecurity is designed into the product and designed in a way that it can be maintained.
There's uncertainty around the cybersecurity of medical devices because it's hard to determine when you've done enough to protect the device. Obviously, cyber criminals move at an astounding speed. What could be safe today may not be safe tomorrow. And so the device manufacturers following the guidance now have to design a device not only that's secure today, but that they can update over time so it will maintain the security over the lifetime of the device. Having said that, then device manufacturers have to identify what the risks are, how big those risks are, and what the consequences are, and try to figure out what mitigation steps need to be taken to mitigate those risks.
One of the most significant potential risks would be a medical device malfunction. For example, if an implantable device was hacked, it's possible that the medical device might not function properly, and that could result in ineffective or improper care given to a patient. This could result in serious patient harm or worse, even possibly death.
In some cases, the cybersecurity events won't cause physical harm to the patients, although they may cause loss of information. And in those cases, the risk would be less significant, but it could still be fairly significant for a device manufacturer. Even reputational risk, reputational harm could create a situation in where patients, physicians, hospital systems no longer want to use a device because they don't trust the security of the device.
We do know that if there is a cybersecurity breach, there might be a couple of key types of harm. One related to patient safety, one related to patient privacy. Now, the question really becomes, is it a manufacturer responsibility or risk, or is it a clinician responsibility or risk, or is it some other party's responsibility or risk? A lot of these things have historically been hashed out in contracts between the manufacturers and the clinicians, for example, but I don't think that that will necessarily continue that way, because Now the FDA has taken a stance to say that manufacturers are required to build in cybersecurity controls to do a couple of key things. One is to allow for system strengthening over time and empowering end users to be able to do that system strengthening over time. And two, to be able to audit the data trail that goes through these medical devices so that someone can do a thorough investigation in the context of breach.
In addressing cybersecurity risk, device manufacturers always have to balance cybersecurity with the functioning of the device. You don't want to sacrifice function for cybersecurity protection, nor do you want to sacrifice cybersecurity protection for function. So you always want to be able to strike a balance where the device is secure, but it is providing the care that's necessary for the patient, which is really the goal of the medical device in the first place.
You are the expert in the device. The FDA is not. So if you see a vulnerability, or if you see an area that's prone to attack, and you can close that area off to attack, then you need to do that even if it exceeds the FDA's prescribed guidelines. And if it differs, then that's where we get involved to help you negotiate with the FDA the better security for it. But the consequences are strong, both on the liability side from the patients and on the regulatory side from the FDA. You could get your product recalled, you could get your marketing approvals revoked, you could have to take the product off the market, you could have to redesign the product. So it's much better to do it right the first time than it is to try to go back. Now, can you anticipate everything, every vulnerability, every attack? No. But do you have to constantly monitor these vulnerabilities and make sure that you're constantly producing updates? Yes, you do.
From a pre-market perspective, onerous guidelines could significantly impact medical device manufacturers' ability to put products on the market. For example, if a medical device submission doesn't meet the minimum standards for addressing cybersecurity concerns, it's possible that FDA could require a medical device company to engage in additional testing or to provide other documentation that might otherwise delay the submission and review and eventual approval of that medical device submission.
The alternative is they under-regulate and we have tons of innovation, but likely more risky products on the market. So again, it's about striking the right balance, and I think the FDA is taking a pretty meted approach to be able to evolve their regulatory approach to be flexible and accommodate all the various ways that this medical device industry is evolving.